Welcome back to the Disenfranchised podcast. I am your co-host, Travis Gearhart, and I am here with
Keith Cunningham.
And we are disenfranchised.
Disenfranchised.
Right. I messed up. I usually do that at the end, but we are here with Thomas Queter. So Thomas Queter is so tell me about the Mobility Independence Foundation.
Well, we'd have to start with why I'm disenfranchised.
Yes.
There you go.
In 2014, I reapplied for the same wheelchair I had had several times prior. It allowed me to get out of my home and onto my farm and through my rural town and have a relatively full life. Sort of. Better than average, I guess. But they denied me that chair because of changes to the healthcare system, even though it was still on the market. I fought appeals for about 5 years. I won the appeal right after they stopped making the chair because they couldn't sell it. They couldn't sell it because in healthcare, the government is the number one customer. I am not the customer. And they offered me a range of chairs that would have to my injury and death, just because of the nature of my condition, and just sitting in that chair would have led to injury. Plus, it wouldn't get outside the house. I tried to use being able to get out my own door over that threshold bump, in case the house is on fire, as a justification for the better chair. They said that was not an adequate justification for a better wheelchair. So I sought used parts through those years to keep it limping along, but I was trapped in my apartment, essentially, for the most part, for those 5 years. And as a farm boy, I can't tell you how demoralizing and psychologically affecting that was. It was actually the Libertarian Party of New York that crowdfunded the solution I needed, but the exact chair I was trying to get unused came up on eBay for $4,500. Because I'm an SSI, I'm not allowed to have more than $2,000 in the bank.
That's insane.
Right. So for me, humor is a coping mechanism. So I took a screenshot of the eBay auction and I put it on Facebook, and I, made a huge joke out of it, laughy faces. My birthday's coming up next month. If you've got $4,500 plus shipping from Austin, Texas, this is what I'd like. And as so happens, the very next morning, my CDPAP worker, kind of like a caregiver, but different, self-directed, meaning he does what I say and not what I don't say.
Yeah.
And a friend up the road, right? So he's in front of me face to face, and she's over instant messenger. And they both tell me within 60 seconds, you see, I just crowdfund this for you, which is something I've been doing for others for decades. And they had to have a 3-day argument with me to allow that, because it's hard to accept help when you're already on services, right? Your neighbors are paying taxes, your family's paying taxes, and there's a stigma around it, and that you're going to get hate for it. But after 3 days, they won that argument. And in 2 months, when I had previously been used to waiting 2 years to go through the process and receive a new chair, they crowdfunded, shipped, and modified that chair for my specific needs. And I had another 8 years to my life because that chair was robust and last. That was amazing to me. Then they asked me to form the county committee, which they had failed to do for 2 years. I did it in 8 weeks without leaving my house. Actually, I went up to the restaurant for the actual meeting to form it. And within another 8 weeks, we had multiplied the number of registered libertarians by a factor of 9 in the county. And I know this is kind of like a long story, and I'm going to talk for a while.
No, we've got nothing but time. We've got no friend. So whatever time you're good till, we're good till. 4
years of political training is why I talk like this. So as county chair, I ended up on a committee of chairs in the Senate district, to find somebody to run against an unopposed Republican. He was unopposed because the Democrats like him so much. He was voting for vaccine mandates before COVID, HPV, straight and measles that we don't actually vaccinate for here. So like the wrong vaccine he mandated. He was a serving senator, a serving cop, and owned a private investigative firm all at once. That doesn't sound dirty at all. And he didn't see me as competition when I got on the ballot. And I apparently had one of the best races to run in New York, so the best staff flocked to me. I suddenly had a campaign team. And I broke the record for the Senate level in New York in the Libertarian Party. I think it was over 13% and over 13,000 votes in district. a large 4-county district, right? 4 large rural counties, and I hit the ground running every day. We left early, we got back late. We canvassed, we saw every small town and district, and he handed out masks and did stunts and took a photo op here and there, and of course bought a lot of press.
Right, right.
That's why I say it's Thomas Daniel Queter, never a quitter, rarely quieter. Can you tell I've run for office and had to correct the press?
Hey, it's better than queefer, right? Thank God it's not queefer.
No, it might be more loved. So in the next run, I was going to run for Senate again, but 2 things happened. They redistricted and decided that Tom Fader only deserved 5% of his base, and we had a Larouchian. Do you know what a Larouchian is?
It sounds familiar. I've heard the name, but I don't know what it is.
So LaRouche was a Democrat, and he had an internal movement in the party. They wanted to do things like force you to tune your instruments to a certain frequency. The Urban Dictionary once defined them simply as crackpot, but a Larouchian was trying to take the U.S. Senate line from the LPN line, which would have been relatively easy to do at the time. But I was well loved in the party by then, and I got tapped to run for that simply to block, and that was successful. When I got nominated, they didn't even try to nominate her, uh, which was good. That was the year we failed to make the line because of New York's egregious ballot changes. 45,000 valid signatures in a 6-week period instead of the previous 15, I believe it was.
I remember reading about that.
Yeah, that's when that change happened. We came just a few thousand short, but we ran the write-in thing, right? The messaging campaign. All of us that were statewide, including Larry Sharp. And then the third one, I ran for town supervisor. And the Republican that was running, we had this candidates forum where you give a speech, very small, maybe 20 people max. And the Republican that was running, this is my favorite thing that they say because it's so bullshit. Hand up, not a handout. When have you ever seen a Republican give you a hand up? Anybody?
Never.
Especially if you're on welfare. Where's the hand up?
Yeah.
Where is it? How long have they
Nope.
been saying this? Where's the hand up?
Yeah.
Or pull yourself up by your bootstraps, then they cut your bootstraps off.
I don't even
Yeah.
have boots, man. I can't wear shoes. Uh, you know, and previous to this, I've been through the welfare hell, right? It's arduous, it's bureaucratic. I have to prove in New York State for different reasons 16 times a year that I still can't walk, despite having it's incurable. They once investigated after that age whether or not my incurable genetic condition that they recognized I was born with and still had between the ages of 18 and 21, because upside down feet just come and go.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that would be like something like, something by like time, 15 checking. You should fuck with them and been like, you guys are right. It was a miracle. Wait, never mind.
So it gets funnier. It gets funnier through all that process. There's a universal assessment system. It's this huge piece of paperwork with all kinds of things to fill in, boxes to check when they review your disability situation, right? Somehow these people wrote down that I had feet but no legs and the ability to drive without assistive technology.
You had feet but no legs?
Well, they're talking about that third leg.
Wow. I guess they thought I had really long toes to reach the pedals. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
So, and then comes in the 2020 campaign slogan that everybody loves, right? I run better than the government. And I can qualify that. Because I can manage a step and a dive, which is usually one step better than most government programs. Because they
Yeah.
just dive. Speaking of which, I just found out today through a friend of mine who's a county nurse that the Office of Aging and the entire county found out a newspaper, right? That's how they found out that the county has voted to dissolve the Office of Aging. Now, for those who don't know what the Office of Aging does, when grandma or someone else with a severe disability doesn't have another place to sit in these systems, needs help navigating these systems that are so arduous and so bad that usually your social worker has trouble doing it, right? That's their job, is to help you through it to get what you need to survive. And we live in a economically oppressed rural area. That means that our children have left. Grandma and grandpa are aging in place. They don't have the family supports and they need these systems. And unless we're going to replace them first, closing that down or denying access or making it harder for them to use them is egregious and harmful. So they're doing
Yeah.
this at the snap of a finger, at the vote of a county board, without the community knowing until last minute. There's a protest on Monday in front of the county building. If you see this and you're in or anywhere near Shenango County, go
Yeah.
be there, be a body. I don't like government programs. I don't like this bureaucratic bullshit, but I also don't like killing people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? We need to replace these systems, and that's what the Mobility Independence Foundation is about, is actually replacing a system that's been failing for a long time, and we see just getting worse. But again, Shenango County Office Building, Norwich, I believe it's 5 Court Street. You can also find their website on Google, real easy. Call all of the seated representatives on the county board. They are also your town board members, as we are a board of town supervisors in this county. So you can also
Okay.
find your town website.
Yeah, we'll make sure we edit and get this posted up ASAP then.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's interesting. People don't realize that calling your representatives actually matters. You know why? They're not used to getting phone calls.
That's true.
The population is so complacent that you can get a congressman to at least look, if not take action, with a couple of hundred phone calls, because they see that as a representation of the population, because they're not used
Yeah.
to phone calls.
Yeah.
As a former school board member, we averaged, I don't know, 3 people a meeting. And out of them 3, at least 3 of them worked at the school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Well, and nobody has time to show up for these things anymore. We're all working 60, 80, 100 hours a week.
Yeah. No
Move
shit.
on.
Yep.
And we're not doing that. We're doing stuff like this. I mean, that's the at least for us, we're certainly not making money at this. Not yet. We'll see. Maybe one day we'll have. That's not why we did it. We did it so that we could have conversations like these. We did it because this is fun for us on a Friday night. Is getting a chance to talk to you and just kind of bullshit. That's exactly why we did it. I had a good interview earlier this week with Evan McMahon. He came on.
I like
I think
Evan.
yeah, he's a good guy. We had a really nice interview. I'm now actually a delegate, so I was a backup delegate. So I was gonna go to the national convention anyways, but I'm going for sure now.
Well, I'll see you
Are
there.
you? Yeah, you gonna be up there? Awesome, awesome. Well, we'll get a chance to
We're
get
screening the
together.
documentary Friday after business.
What's that? I'm sorry.
We are screening the documentary after business on Friday.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah, I'll have to make sure I'm up there.
That was the bill I
I'm
was
excited.
paying.
That's the next thing. Actually, real quick, let me share my screen. You mind if we play the
The
I'll
power to
share
move.
the real quick for anybody that hasn't seen it.
I'm gonna
Your
flip
trailer.
off screen for a second then. Take care of
Yeah,
my
go.
neighbor.
Yeah, if you wanna slip off screen, I'll go ahead and share this. Oh, where am I at here? Right here.
So for people who aren't in wheelchairs and have no idea what somebody goes through,
It's typically not the person who's disabled or their doctor who gets to decide what equipment they get. You end up with intermediaries. You have PTs, OTs, and then you have the provider, which is a middleman company.
Do we think that that's enough for you to be in that chair then, even though you're the one with the issues? There's nothing that it's empowering the disabled community to go out and do it themselves, except right now the competition that's trying to enter, which would be MIP.
We're doing open source DME because of the length of time it takes for repairs. And instead of waiting 2 years for a wheelchair, it might be 2 months.
Thomas Queter from Mount Upton, who has a rare disease called osteogenesis imperfecta, is aiming to help those who have disabilities.
What I hear most often from people is, I'd like to be able to keep my home.
You don't find yourself going places because you worry about your equipment working or not working.
what we want to accomplish with open source designs is we want those designs to be out there. What you want to do with the chair will be up to you.
Why should I trust someone else's opinion of what I need in a wheelchair when I'm the one with the best understanding of my situation?
Disabled people are consistently let down by the systems that are supposed to support them.
I want to see a better world again. I want to see better people being better to each other.
We don't have to leave people behind. We have the means to figure out how to not only survive but thrive.
I founded the Mobility Independence Foundation because the best way to help those with disabilities is to endow them with what they need to help and include themselves.
Very cool.
So
Very cool.
it's actually an old trailer. We had to change the name of the documentary because just as we were about to release, Shaquille O'Neal released his documentary about shoes that was called Power Moves. So the name is now The Power to Move. You can actually rent it for $2.99 on Amazon Prime. I am the cheapest date you'll ever have. But it definitely wins in the disability community. We do these tech expos where these companies that manufacture equipment come and show off their products, and between 5 and 20,000 people who use those kinds of products show up. And we've been showing this documentary in the beginning of the day before the rest of the expo opens. And it packs, right? We're backing people up into the booths of these big companies that are essentially the enemy.
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting because I shouldn't call them the enemy. When the ACA passed, the majority of equipment companies to survive were handed to private equity companies. Private equity companies only look at the profit, right? So there's no ethics in this.
Yes.
They don't look at the quality of the product because the government is a customer, and I, Tom Queter, no longer get to choose. So they can sell us whatever they want as long as the government's buying. By government buying, I mean they subsidize not only Medicaid, Medicare, but every private insurance out there is subsidized by the government and beholden to these regulations and rules. One of those regulations, by the way, is the Medicare in-home rule. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of it, but I'm not super familiar. If you want to break it down for us.
It stipulates that your equipment only has to be good enough to get you from your bed to your toilet and back.
That's right.
What kind of life is that? When you gain disability midlife, you have a mortgage and you have a wife and you're a husband and you have children and you have a job you could potentially go back to or get another job. If your equipment's only getting you to the toilet and back, you're going to lose your job, going to lose your income entirely, except for maybe SSDI or SSI, which is meager. And then you're going to lose your spouse and your kids. And after that, you lose your mind and your life. And I've seen it over and over for the last 28 years as an advocate. Yep. It's an attack on the family unit. It's an attack on our sanity. It causes suicide, causes psychological issues. It's inhumane and torturous. And that's what needs to end. So when we talk about equipment, right? How do we get around these systems? How do we provide in an equally applicable manner without charging that individual doesn't have any money, $50,000 to $100,000 for a power chair or whatever it is for whatever equipment they need? Well, you start a nonprofit and you network with other nonprofits and you build community teams and you create designs that any community can build. And there's some realities about the current tech that people don't realize. No matter how fancy the advertisement looks for that power chair, no matter what features they're showing off, whatever it does, it's not rocket science. It's not.
Right.
The reason it's difficult is because the parts are made very specifically and you have to get them from that company. So you can't go buy a different lift to lift your chair seat. You can't go buy a different tire or wheel. You can't go buy a different motor and just slap it on. Doesn't work well that way. Especially the electronics, right? You open up the electronics on these chairs and they're tech from the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Yeah.
There's a
Which
good-
which is one of the things I was gonna bring up when we were watching the video is, you know, you talk about you would think in this world where we've got all these AI data centers, we've got all of this, you know, it's supposed to be the new era, right? We're destroying, we're building these data centers and just absolutely destroying every piece of non-paved ground that we can and water supply that we can in order to move the future forward. And then where's the future? You know, where's the future? Are you gonna have a chair that, where's the goddamn flying cars?
right? Where's the goddamn flying wheelchairs?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've become known for making this statement. We're the country that built a robot that lasted without being repaired by human hands for almost 15 years on the surface of Mars, but our wheelchairs break down at a rate of 50% of them in a 6-month period.
Right.
If that's not backwards, if that's not for the people, then explain that, right? Now, interestingly, I actually have one of the engineers that worked on that robot working for me.
That's cool. That is very cool. The next movie will be a Queeter on Mars.
Actually, the next the follow up to this documentary, we hope and intend, if we get funding, donate.
Donate.
We intend to be showing the facilitation of a few builds of the endurance mobility device. We can't call it a wheelchair. You know why?
Probably state regulations or federal regulations, right?
The Food and Drug Administration decides what is and is not a wheelchair, and I have it in mind to go feed them one. So the reason they don't upgrade the tech, like I was talking about, the electronics in particular, is that there's this egregious approval process that's expensive to get it through the system, to be paid for by insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, whatever. I met a woman who spent $7 million in 4 years to get a new kind of seat cushion approved through the system. Imagine what they'd put somebody through for upgrading a wheelchair, right? Meanwhile, we're able to take the IP of a defunct model that's no longer owned or held, it's in the public domain, reverse engineer it, and upgrade it. And all of our upgrades come from websites like Amazon.com. It's readily used tech. The air suspension is out of a tractor trailer. They put them in the seats of the drivers for their spines. The batteries are what people put under the beds of their kids in their RVs so that they can be off grid when they're camping. It's called lithium iron phosphate. It's the safest lithium on the market. You can shoot a lithium iron phosphate battery with a shotgun and it'll only fizz. You could drop it off of a tall building and it might crack to concrete. Now, here's the thing. This is where it gets really libertarian, right? We do believe that you could do more for less, right? The standard sealed gel cell lead acid batteries for a quality pair, 100 amp hours each, cost $700. And for an active user like myself, only ever lasted about 6 months at peak performance and dramatically dwindled afterwards. Meanwhile, your insurance system only wants to replace them every 2 years. And that's hell you go through, right? Because you're charging 3, 4, 7, 8 times a day. You're sitting still. You're going forward. There's been these instances where because I've got like this 30 minutes or 1 hour period where I can move before I have to get back on the charger, I'll go through the house and I'll be picking up things and putting things down, and it'll look like a bad bit out of the Three Stooges because I'm just piled high with dishes and notebooks or whatever it is I gotta to get it all done as efficiently as possible. But here's the thing.
Must save power.
Here's the thing. The lithium iron phosphate batteries are costing us, depending on the brand, between $200 and $500 a pair. They give you a full discharge, unlike lead acids. They're warranted for between 7 and 10 or 11 years, right? At peak performance, which means they give you better than peak performance out the gate. They don't drop in voltage when they meet resistance, which means you get more power to go up a hill. So the endurance power mobility device I treat it like a 4-wheeler in the Catskill Mountains for 3 days before I have to charge it. It's robust. It's safe. I have brittle bones disease, and I fly down mountain trails because of the suspension, right?
Says more about you than the no.
Sort of.
You're a daredevil.
But the elderly, right? If you're osteoporosis or if you've got a spine injury,
yes.
these people are complaining to us. You know the cracks in the sidewalk that they do so that if it heaves, it breaks in the right place? Right? They're not really bumps yet
Yeah.
until something heaves. Well, even unheaved, where it's nice and level, they complain about those hurting, right? And
Yeah.
when you look at curb cuts and other accessibility features, you look at nature, especially in the Northeast. I'm in New York. Where are you guys?
Indiana,
Indiana.
Northwest Indiana.
Okay. I don't know if you guys have heave in the ground through the winter, but here
Oh yeah.
we're in the watershed. The ground is waterlogged constantly. When it freezes, it heaves and moves and shifts. And so by the ADA, I suppose you could sue every business with a parking lot every year for violations because, it changes every year. There's going to be a
Right.
bump. There's going to be a bump at the curb. There's going to be potholes, this, that, and the other thing. So you could, I guess, if you wanted to, sue all of these businesses until you had a lot of empty buildings. That doesn't work. People just don't do it because of that.
Yeah.
But with a chair that's capable, right? You can make your environment accessible by making your equipment capable. And that's the goal, right? I can climb a 6-inch curb. I don't get hurt. I can fly over cobblestones that are loose, I don't get hurt. I'm constantly talking to people who don't use their own front lawn because it hurts. And
Yeah.
with today's tech, it's all at our fingertips. Most of us can purchase it in parts, right? Look at the robotics industry. That's all available. You look at the auto industry. Seatbelts. These are lightweight auto seatbelts. They're better than what they put on wheelchairs. I know for a fact.
Yeah.
The standard lap belt for a wheelchair, if I have it on and I lean forward, it falls off or it's connected in the back.
Right. Right.
What is that? That's FDA regulated, by the way.
Well, I know for a fact that that seatbelt works good because I did the test drive when I was at the Indiana Libertarian National Convention when you and I first met. And that was a cool. That was a fun little ride. Yeah, I enjoyed that. That was a fun little ride around the block in that thing. That was impressive.
Did you witness where I made the mistake of allowing somebody higher speed indoors?
No, I didn't witness it, but it had just happened, and you were fresh off the story. You were like, "Oh God, this just happened." You were just telling me the stories.
I caused the comms director to run over her own candidate. But, the industry and society at large thinks that power is unsafe in equipment like this. We're going to hurt ourselves, right? And that's not true so much. What's true is that we need training, right? When we get
Yeah.
our one, and with the HID that we have, because it's being made with an Arduino, so a robust computer system, we can actually put AI driven or machine learning driven training into it. So it's capable of higher speeds, better turning radius, but we'll start it out governed, if you will. That might be the right word. And the goal is that it will learn your patterns of driving. Go port it to the software on your own laptop, and it reads that and it says, "Hey, you're doing pretty well. You can have another half a mile an hour. You can tighten up your turning radius a little bit. You're getting better as a driver." And beyond that, some planned tutorials, video walkthroughs, how to set up an obstacle, and get through that a little faster if you really want it. Because I don't want
Yeah.
80-year-old grandma or 5-year-old Timmy to go hurt themselves, but I do
Right.
want them to have the ability to take the risk, because life is about risk. And
Right.
I need to
Well,
qualify this.
and there'll be times that you need a little more speed. I mean, God forbid you're somehow getting in the middle of a road and there's a car coming and you need to get out of the way and you need to get out of the way now. Well, governor's a death sentence.
I'm in the middle of the road an awful lot. I live in a rural highway, and every time I'm in a big city, my favorite thing to do is jaywalk, because it's the only time I get to walk. I do want to qualify this whole safety aspect.
Yes.
I have never had any other chair that did cause injury. Sometimes it was 100 flat fractures in an instant. I've had over 2,000 fractures in life, fractures and breaks. That's 4 times Evil Knievel's stuntman career, by the way.
Nice.
Our wheelchairs today make the top 30 most dangerous consumer goods list.
That's
Guns
interesting. That's fun to know.
Guns don't. And, for all of the arduous safety regulations, they're not safe. They're not
Yeah.
safe for a lot of reasons. The tech's not robust. The repairs are not applicable. The average time for a repair is 5 months. So you can imagine what some people are waiting for a repair.
Right.
Often they're aging out, because at 5 years, they have to buy you a new chair. It's almost like these companies are not incentivized to give you better tech. Because if it's planned obsolescence at 3 to 5 years, which is the average age at which a chair goes to the dump, then they get to sell you another one, because that customer is guaranteed. It's
Yeah. No incentivization to do anything better. I mean, what and you hate to sound cynical about it, but we can sound cynical about it. The government, you're not a large enough voting block.
5.5 million wheelchair users in this country. We could be.
You could be, but they don't get it. They don't get that in their ear. We were, talking about calling your people and more often, earlier, and because they don't get those calls. So you got to do it.
So are you guys familiar with Louis Rossman?
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Look,
What's who?
Louis, Louis, Rossman, Rossmann. He's a right to repair advocate with a YouTube channel of over 2.5 million subscribers. He's the one I was trying to get on his podcast, and he's a very busy guy. We played phone tag for a few weeks, and eventually he just called me up and said, I just don't have time to have you on a podcast. How about $200,000?
You're like, well,
And he
well,
directed,
shit.
yeah, so he directed that grant, which was from a libertarian, to us. And actually, that grant renewed in 10 months instead of waiting a year because the opportunity struck. And we've made that last more than a year this time. And so I've reapplied again. That is Futo, by the way, is the organization. They're all about tech freedom. They believe you should
Okay.
own your products. Founded by Aaron Wolf, who's a great guy, very, very tech savvy. So Louis Rossman is actually in our documentary, along with a former U.S. Surgeon General, and they're
Okay.
backing us up. Miss Wheelchair USA in our documentary, backing us up.
Nice, nice.
When we show this documentary at a room full of people with disabilities, man, there's like two crowds, right? There's half of them that are like, this is great. I'm inspired. I have hope now, right? I want to see this happen. And then there's the other half that gets on maybe the more libertarian side. Oh yeah, this pisses me off. I've been trying to teach this party since I came in 2019, something that I've seen as a disabilities advocate over the last 28 years. When I first started advocating, and it was through like forums and Facebook groups, where you have large groups of people with disabilities. When I first started advocating, everybody was screaming for a bigger check, more money, right? Today, because the Democrats and Republicans have screwed us over both so many times. Because the Democrats screw us over in one way, Republicans screw us over in another way, and it switches, and they just go back and they make it worse every time.
Yep.
Now everybody is screaming for a way off of welfare. We all recognize that the time has come. It's easier to be employed. Remote work is a thing. We're capable of skills and graduating college. For our foundation, we contract a mechanical engineer with full body CP who graduated from Rochester Institute of Technology. He's an amazing person. Those are some skills. And he is arguably severely more disabled than I am, I guess, if you want to put it on a scale. And he's just amazing. That's Devin Hamilton of
Devin Hamilton.
RapAdapt. RapAdapt.com is his business. He's a machine shop. He built his own accessible, excuse me. He built his own accessible CNC machine. Think about that.
That's crazy.
He built his own powered chair to work in his shop. He does work fixing the problems one at a time, helping people out. And if you see the documentary, you'll see him say that he's about helping people thrive rather than just surviving. And
Right.
once you think about that for a minute, everybody's seen these commercials about puppy mills, right? You've seen that.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, especially recently with the Beagle stuff out of Wisconsin.
Yep.
That was a big
It's these pathetic dogs that are not cared for in small cages. Well, that's how we feel. If we're not trapped in our homes, we're trapped in state institutions. More and more of us have an exit plan before we get forced into an institution because we know how bad these institutions are. And that exit plan is either a bottle of pills or a pistol. I call in welfare checks on people because of the issues with their wheelchair. That they become suicidal. As one gentleman last summer, I'm sorry to keep talking and not giving you guys a chance, but
Hey, you're the guest. People listen to us ramble all the time. They're here for you.
so there was this gentleman out, I think it was North Carolina, but I knew what county he was in, and I'd just been introduced to him and to help him with his wheelchair issue. And he posted a veiled threat of suicide on his Facebook page. And I've dealt with people who are suicidal before. I counsel all kinds of things from disabilities to finances to addicts to whatever is the problem. But I knew that I couldn't just like call them up about being suicidal because if you press someone in that situation, you might inadvertently press them the wrong direction.
Right.
But I also knew that I had just sent him an email with resources to help take care of his wheelchair issue, right? So he had a multiple spine fracture from an auto accident. And he fought for 7 years through grueling rehabilitation to qualify for a better manual wheelchair that would give him more independence. It had been delivered last May, and 5 months later, they still hadn't corrected the fact that it didn't fit him. He couldn't use it. He couldn't get them to respond. He couldn't get them to show up. He couldn't get an answer. And this is a man who lost the business he built. He was a contractor, lost a lot of his family. They walked away because the situation gets rough, right? It's common for a family to walk away because most of us don't have the money to stick around like that. It's too taxing. It sounds terrible. You want to judge them, but ultimately everybody's trying to survive.
Yeah.
So he had lost everything he had built through life and was thrown on disability supports that were less than his government health care cost him. I want you to put yourself in that guy's shoes, right? You built a life that you loved. You built a family, a business that you loved, a home that you loved, and you lose it all because of the systems that are supposed to help you survive that incident.
Yep.
You have the knowledge to go back to work. You could have run that company, but you can't because of a piece of equipment. Back to safety, right? That's an issue. Part of the safety problems with equipment is that they don't get the fittings right. I've met paraplegics where the seat presses against the back of their leg too much and it causes a interruption to their circulatory system and then they have to have surgery. Tell me that's not a drain on the healthcare system and the taxpayer, right?
Yeah.
Let alone
Yeah.
that individual. Pressure sores, bed sores, sepsis. We had a handle on that problem in the 1970s. It's very easy. You got to keep people clean and dry.
Yep.
Our equipment, our beds, our hospitals even are failing to do that. We can't keep people clean and dry. What the hell? I've never had a pressure sore, by the way. You know why?
What is that?
When I was a kid, my physical therapist worked out of a living institution, one of these places that I hate. I don't hate the people that work there because they're trying to do the right thing, but they're so mired in bullshit. They're understaffed, underfunded.
Yep.
And you go down the hall, and there'd be these people parked in wheelchairs doing nothing with nobody with them, kind of, dead in the eye or listless or bored, unentertained, unoccupied. And I'd get to my physical therapist, a very young child, by the way. And I asked him, why is that? What's going on? And his response was, find your independence or else you'll end up in an institution. It was not why the system was bad. It was not why those people were sitting there. It was a warning to find my independence. And I can tell you, I've said I had 2,000 fractures in my life, right?
Yeah.
I realized at a young age that I had to choose. Am I going to do something when I have a fracture or am I going to not do something when I have a fracture? When you look at the time and the amount of time in which I spent with a fracture, I decided that if I didn't do something, even though I had a fracture, I was never going to accomplish anything.
Yeah.
I have been working in the garden on the farm since I was 2 years old. I ran away from home for the first time when I was 3 years old. I've never taken a step or walked, and I got my first wheelchair when I was 4 years old. I was arrested for the first time when I was 11.
What'd you do?
For
Fleeing the scene.
something I didn't do. Second time was 13, again for something I didn't do. That's what happens when you get friendly with the New York City cops kids who are not so great.
Did they get you for fleeing the scene?
Oh, so get this, right? The first time was stupid. A friend of mine and I were just pissed off at our families. And we're country boys. We know how to make a coffee can fire, cook a hot dog, right? And we know we
Right.
get away with that. And so we were going down behind an old abandoned school building where there's this ditch and the Earth Day trees kind of that were planted every year blocked the way so nobody can see you. So you can have that coffee can fire and sit there on a warm night and, be fine and then go home and, deal with everybody who's pissed off.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the plan.
Smoke some stolen cigarettes. Maybe drink a couple stolen beers from the old man's fridge. Typical
No,
teenager.
not even. We weren't even there yet.
No.
Just a hot dog, man.
Just a
But
hot dog.
right? Being kids, we took our favorite stuff with us, right? Like I had my football cards. We had some notebooks with their names on it, right? And that was the plan, was to go have that little hot dog fire and come back in the morning, just to piss everybody off because they pissed us off. Well, best laid plans, right? We get down there, and this thunderstorm rolls in. and lightning strikes this big playground we're in, like 100 yards away. And we're country boys. We both know I'm sitting on lead acid batteries. You ever seen a lead acid battery explode?
No, but I can imagine.
It eats human flesh. That acid will burn right to you. So we're next to this school building that was made accessible for me to go there, by the way. And the window's open. So he climbs in through the window, unwraps a piece of wire from the inside of the door, and I go up the ramp they built for me to go in there. And we hang out for a while, right? But I got a big brother, and he figures out where we are. And so once the storm clears, right, he's running around the building, banging on windows and doors, scaring the shit out of us, right? Because we're little kids, and he's big brother. And he sets
Yeah.
up on blatting, as he should, right? That's the big brother thing. You did what you're supposed to do. And
Right. I was the big brother, so
Right.
I'm there.
right. So 3 months later, these other kids go in there, find the stuff we left behind, completely forgot about because big brother scared us home, and they set it on fire.
Oh, that's shitty.
Yeah, and they find my wheelchair tracks in the building in the dust, and the caretaker stated that he cleaned it every 2 weeks. It'd been 3 months, so there was. But we both got 6 months of juvenile probation for that, and I mean, think about it. An 11-year-old in a rattle trap wheelchair that weighs like 40 pounds, and he weighs 40 pounds. I weigh 40 pounds. Got juvenile probation for arson of an abandoned school building, which he didn't do. And technically, I suppose that
Right.
done, but it didn't. And it was funny because juvenile probation basically you're required to go in for counseling every so often. I think it was every 2 weeks. First time I go in, I tell the counselor exactly how happened and why I'm there and how disgusted I am about the whole thing. And he rolls his eyes and says, "Yeah, you're not supposed to be here. Just come in and sign your name and go home every time." Right. So he understood. Thin blue line bullshit happened, right? Because they were the children of a New York City cop, even though this is upstate. So fast forward a few years, it's a small town. You don't have many options for friends, right? You get over these things and you still hang out with them.
We've been there. That's the only reason Keith still talks to me. We both grew up in the same small town.
So they stole some stuff that was stored in a school bus in a field behind a repair shop that my wheelchair at the time couldn't even gotten to. Maybe it could have gotten to within sight of it, but the bus wasn't accessible. There was no way for me to know it was in there. They stole some like knick-knack, I don't know, pewter statues and bullshit. And they gave me some of it. The rest of it they kept in a treehouse. And then officer come up, and so my parents are at the door. They're blocking the view so that I can't be seen, and I'm behind them. And this young sheriff's deputy, green, right, probably sent there to do the job nobody wanted, describes me as a criminal because I don't know, but he's describing how a bunch of stuff was stolen from a bus in the field. My parents knew where it was, knew I wouldn't have been able to get there, and how it was
Right.
a house. The guy didn't know I was in a wheelchair. So I was sitting there, arms crossed and listening and kind of trying not to laugh. And they part ways to introduce me to this officer. Turns white, like loses all the color in his face. Just realized what he said and who he said it about. But again, still had to go to court. Another 6 months juvenile probation for something I didn't do. Think about that.
Yep.
But I don't want to get off on that tangent. Let's get back to the safety metrics.
No, but it's a fair tangent,
Yeah,
right? Like
it's
it's a fair thing, and another good reason of being a libertarian and making sure that you're going through your due process and that they can't just I mean, you see it all every day. We excuse me, Keith and I talk about all the videos that we watch on TikTok of that. There's one guy, he's kind of famous. I think he's called oh geez, I'll think of it in a second, but he's this lawyer and he goes through the videos of the people that have been wronged by cops and stuff, That's not to say you want to say that you're anti-cop, because I'm not. I got a lot of cop friends, not a lot, but enough.
The best thing I love about my police officer friends is that if you get enough whiskey in them, the first thing they complain about is about how hard it is to turn in bad cops.
Yeah. That is the problem, right? It's like anything else. You get into the swamp and you have to go along to get along, and most of them, they don't want to pull you over for going 5 miles over the speed limit. They don't give a shit about that. That's not why they became cops, so they can write you traffic tickets and seatbelt tickets.
Why did my 87-year-old grandmother, who never did anything illegal in her life, tell me that every time she saw the cop, she had that oh shit feeling.
Yeah.
But back to safety issues,
Yeah.
Mateo.
Back to safety. So
So what's required for safety testing is basically lab testing. Years and years ago, I actually talked to a guy who did this, and he was like honest and laughing with me about it because he had a cake job that paid well. He said, "You know what I do to safety test these things?" And I'm sure the regs have changed since then, but he said, "I drive it in a circle until it stops." Right? Because that's real life.
Yeah.
So our safety testing is me being nuts. And to that point, I fly up and down the Catskill Mountains. I take it off road like crazy. I drive off 6-inch curbs. I drive up 6-inch curbs. I almost fell into a canyon in Utah the other year. We stopped at a rest area and going down the little slope. The ground felt like it was nice and packed. You could see it was loose, but it felt firm. I turn around, go up it, not so firm. I'm driving forward and slipping backwards. But I wasn't real close to the cliff. I just almost fell off the cliff. And we have this mindset in society that someone with a disability shouldn't take a risk, shouldn't do a thing, shouldn't try to do a thing. And I feel like I'm living proof of the opposite. I feel like I had to get used to the fact that I was going to have broken bones.
right.
To that tune, I can tell you that I can butcher a large white-tailed deer in 5 hours with both my arms broken. We need to be able to do things. We need to get used to what we're dealing with. And I know that sounds terrible. Get used to it. Well, it's not going away.
Right.
Something.
Well, that was our first interaction. I told my girlfriend works with people with physical disabilities. That's her job, right? And so when I was first describing you to her,
Hang on, is she a PT or an OT?
Neither. I work with mental and physical disabilities.
neither she works with mental and physical, but
I work at a day
she works
What's
at
your
a day
title?
services.
Okay.
What's your title?
direct service.
Direct service provider. So DSP. In fact, she won DSP of the year 3 years ago for her company. So
Right
she
on.
knows her shit. She's really good. But I was telling her how when we first met, when not to interrupt you, but the first thing I was like, and so I've met a lot of her clients, and we've been out and about, and we've gone and seen different stuff, and so when we first met, man, I shook your hand and say, "Oh, hey, how you doing, bud?" And you're like, "Hey, thanks. You didn't, I told you I was disabled, and you didn't go, oh, I'm so sorry. You just said, okay, cool." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I think I told you." I'm like, "Yeah, well, you think I don't think you know?" I'm like,
That brings up. So I make new friends a lot, especially since getting active in politics and doing the nonprofit and really getting out in the world these days. And for a long time, even before that, pardon me, I'm rolling a tax-free cigarette.
you enjoy yourself. I ain't worried about it, man. We can hear you.
So I run into people who are good people, kind people. They don't see the difference. They see human. And when you try to explain to them how people are to you, they often don't believe it. They think society has come a lot way past that. And so what I do is I take them to the grocery store. I have them walk 10 feet behind me in a grocery store and watch the reactions of people when I say hello. Now, when I go through a grocery store and I say hello to people, there's a range of reactions, right? Some will scoff and look up and walk faster. Some will just scoff and walk forward. Some will talk to me like I'm 5 years old. The rarest are the best that will talk to me like I'm a human being. But that shows people how people actually are. Because if you're a good person, particularly if you're libertarian minded, and you just assume that everybody would be good to me because I'm disabled, you're wrong. I actually have victim tattooed across my forehead in the wrong situation.
Yeah.
So to that, I'd like to say that your equipment should also be a means of self-defense. I could break your leg, both of them.
Yeah.
Easily. um, so that's kind of an odd story. In an elevator once, in elevators, if there's other people, I warn them when I'm going to turn or whatever to watch their own feet because I can't see them. And somebody who didn't take that seriously that back wheel went up their toe, up their foot, up their tibia, and snap, snap, snap before I knew what was happening. Right. I'm used to feeling my own bones break, but when you feel somebody else's break, that hurts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So back to the foundation.
Yes.
What we do is create designs from readily available parts and components that most people can build, especially in a team. If you've got an auto mechanic and someone who works on electronics, you can put one of these together. But we run into 16-year-olds who are into robotics that when we tell them everything that goes into it, they say if they had all the parts in front of them, they could build it in 3 weeks, right? Think about that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're waiting 6 months to 3 years for the delivery of a piece of equipment that's pre-manufactured and sitting in a warehouse. And that's bureaucracy.
Yep.
If we can do better, we should. So our goal is to not only create the designs and release them, but to facilitate through other nonprofits and community teams. And I don't know, Travis, maybe you break your back and you decide you want the wheelchair or the mobility device that we offer. You can find the people yourself. You can find the funding yourself, and you can do it. We can partner with organizations like Help Hope Live. And if a PT, an OT, or a doctor just writes a note saying that you need it to better your life, they will help you raise the money for it. It doesn't have to be a prescription, no insurance approval. It's modifiable to any means you wish, right? So if there's something in the base design that doesn't cover one of your needs, you just make it different. I like to use a very facetious argument, and your girlfriend will probably take good humor from this. If you've got a third arm growing out of the center of your back, none of these
Yes.
companies makes a wheelchair with a backrest that will accommodate that. But if you're building one of our open hardware designs for yourself, you can make it what you need it to be. And of course, then
Yeah.
the right to repair is built in. You don't have to pass legislation for the right to repair. It's there. You have the designs. The parts are accessible. Go get them.
Yeah.
Go forth and do. I
Yeah.
came to this, obviously, after politics failed in trying to make headway on these issues. I still wanted to do something about it. And I was thinking about, starting a nonprofit. Maybe we just build some of our own designs to show proof positive. I didn't know what open hardware was. A friend of mine told me about open hardware, and I said, yeah, that's the goal, because that gets around the regulation, that gets around the approval, that uses community effort, which I'm all about.
Yeah.
And then I was still on the fence about doing it because I don't have money, Travis. I live in about
Samesies.
I live about $12,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that same person had a conversation with him that I was, on the fence trying to decide if I should go after this or not. And his response was, do you think it needs to be done? And do you think anybody else is doing it? And I definitely thought it needed to be done.
Right.
And I knew I had the support network that actually grew through running for office, by the way. I got all of my opportunities in life by joining the Libertarian Party and running for office. Because I met so many great people. One of them, which has repeatedly saved my life by keeping my wheelchair or my power device going. And then I got looking into whether or not anybody was doing this. And I saw some small scale initiatives, heavily localized, not very high tech, not very capable. I mean, they were definitely filling a gap. It was good work, but it wasn't enough. And so I decided, you know what? He's right. Nobody else is doing this. It needs to be done. And so I'm the one that has to do it. So I started this foundation with a 0% introductory rate credit card that I put $1,000 on to file the paperwork. And then I just, I kept moving. I had board members. I had found engineers like Devin and Kyle Davis, who does our electronics engineering. James Beck does some of the electronics engineering. We work with universities across the country, University of Arizona, or ASU, Arizona State University, Northeastern University, Rochester Institute of Technology, University of Rochester, Recording Georgia Tech, and University of Texas at Dallas. We intend to end up with a 3D virtual reality simulator that can teach you how to build this.
That's really cool.
Right?
That is really cool.
That's University of Texas at Dallas that we're talking to about that. They've already done something similar. It's like the most realistic looking video game you can imagine. We could also use that for training to drive wheelchairs, which nobody gets.
Yeah.
There is so much to do here. We have an open hardware prosthetic leg in development. And when we go on to a campus in front of engineering students, we say open hardware, there's two reactions we get, right? There's those who already know what open hardware is and know it's ethical and know that it's like the right thing to do for people. And they're just super excited. And then there's those who don't know about it and you tell them and they get excited. So we're teaching the next generation of engineers how to be ethical to their consumers.
Yeah. Yeah, the only people that don't get excited are the lawyers that aren't able to patent anything and make a whole shit ton of unnecessary money.
I'll put back on it a little bit. We will patent some things.
Well, I'm sure. But I'm saying like the ones that that will that want to control the whole situation.
You're
I
talking
mean,
about those who enforce the DMCA, the Digital Millennium something or other, that allows digital locks on your devices.
yes, that type exactly.
So,
That's the people that won't be happy about it. I'm sure aren't.
so we have a new in-house project. The Endurance was an in-house project. We have a new one in-house. All the rest of them we start with universities, and then we'll move them to a contractor to finish. The Roz Rover Children's Power Chair. Ages 3 to 7 have the highest rate of denial for a power wheelchair after being deemed medically necessary. So their doctors and therapists say they need one, but the insurance company says they don't. And that's what happened to this young man in New Jersey, 5 years old, started kindergarten. His mom had the top of the line package from the market, whatever, the government bullshit. I'm
Yep.
not aware because I don't use this healthcare. I do my own. And she was beside herself. They had like the top tier package they could get. And the provider, which is the intermediary company, which is required, by the way, told them they wouldn't get approved for it, even though he needed it. This kid has a condition that's like paralysis. His lower limbs lack function. He can stand with a walker for like 10 minutes. He can use a manual wheelchair for like 30 minutes, but he's going to get through a whole day of school and childcare after school and play with his friends, right? And she's disgusted. And she did the mom thing. She got on the internet. She found us. She found my email. She sent me an email. I forget what I was doing at the time, but I was messy. It was either produce from the garden or I was butchering a deer or something. And I used my pinky to touch the notification on my phone because it was clean. And I read it and it hit me and it struck me. And I just did a quick reply with my clean pinky that I would get back to her in a day or two because I was busy. I finished what I was doing quicker than I thought. And it was so stuck in my brain because that was all the garbage I went through as a kid, right? Can you imagine having to get through school when your wheelchair is broken down 5 months of the year? Can you imagine?
And that's the age that children aren't exactly nice.
Right. And then, just because you're a child doesn't mean you don't see the strain on your family and
Right.
even your
Right.
teachers and other staff at school when you have these issues. You see all of that pain. You see that suffering. I remember hearing my parents cry in the other room. That hurts.
Yeah.
And so I called her that night instead of waiting a day or two. And she said something to me. He needs to be able to go forth and cause mischief. He's 5 years old. Of course he does. That's how we learn. Your prefrontal
Right.
cortex is growing at the fastest rate. If you don't have the ability to explore your environment, you're going to end up with a developmental disability, a learning disability, a social disability. You're going to become a shut-in. You're not going to want to talk to people when you should be doing the opposite. And that's what we're doing to children ages 3 to 7, because often, if it's not a straight out denial simply based on age, or something stupid like he can stand up for 10 minutes, they'll deny because they take a 3-year-old and they put them in a power chair for the first time after all of this process, right? This is the last thing they do to see how well they drive it. Did you learn to drive a car before you went for your license?
Nope.
You didn't learn to drive a car
Nope.
before your license?
Yeah, that's the whole point of doing the permit, going out, learning how to parallel park. That's the whole point of having that process.
So they expect him to know how to drive it without learning or training. And when that happens, he has to restart that whole process, which can be between 6 months and 3 years. It's disgusting. And there's your developmental delay, right? There's your your setback in school, your setback in socialization. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're adding hurdles. You know, you already have the hurdle of physical. You already have the hurdle of emotional because you're different. You know like you said, the strain you're putting on your family. You know, that's all stuff that you deal with at a younger age than you should have to. You have to become emotionally more mature, or sink, right?
Yeah, or you could
Doing that.
just
I mean,
be a
I'm
hard-headed,
not trying to call you mature here.
or you could just be a hard-headed badass like myself.
That's true.
Hmm.
That's true. So, but you're just throwing an extra hurdle in there.
I have reasons for why I turned out the way I did. These are things I've been told all my life. I was born 6 weeks late. Don't tell me what to do. I was a breech. I came out butt first, winning the world.
The way so they can kiss your ass.
And after I was born, the first thing my maternal grandmother said about me, which I was told on repeat growing up, this explains my personality. Her words were, "Holy shit, look at the balls on that kid." If you knew my full realm of life experiences, that would make sense. I like to.
I think Keith had a similar thing said when they.
Yeah. It was 10 pounds of cock and a bucket of balls.
I think I was bigger than you when I was born.
It was 10 pounds of cock and a bucket of balls, and you still call me boy?
Jeez.
So I mean, when I think about my life and what I've done, I've helped people run their businesses. I've I counsel addicts and counsel people financially. I've helped businesses grow without getting paid. I've fed people in my community. Uh, I've been set on fire 5 times. Uh, I had 2,000 fractures. I learned to set my own broken bones when I was 3. Uh, I defied the federal government in 1998 for a life-saving drug. Uh, 15 years old. Beat the FDA when I was 15. Screw it.
Hell yeah.
Um,
How'd that go? What's the story?
So there's this family of drugs called bisphosphonates, which you might have heard of, Boniva or Fosamax, right?
Yep.
They're bone building drugs. They affect.
I've seen some commercials about that on TV for commercials where the side effects are severe diarrhea and all these other. Well, I would just say like no.
I've had no. These drugs have very low side effects, if any. So they've been well known and well used since like the 70s for post chemo, post radiation,
Okay.
Paget's, osteoporosis, very low bone density conditions. They've been using them on. Guess what I
Okay.
have? A low bone density condition.
Okay.
In fact, my doctors say, well, my one orthopedic surgeon said that I had a -9 on the density scale, which is 7 deviations below normal, and the least dense bone he'd ever seen in a living person. And that was before these treatments. And they also say I'm the most improved
Nice,
because of
nice.
this drug. So it's a very simple and common sense. This drug stops the process that removes bone and kicks in higher gear, the process that adds bone. So your bone being porous, it fills in, but can become more dense. You lower your fracture rate.
Okay.
But it wasn't tested and approved for my specific condition. So I found out about a doctor from the Midwest, Horatio Plotkin, who left the U.S. to Canada, of all places, to do a study of the drug on my condition. Problem was, we were poor. Even though that was the part of Canada that's near New York, we couldn't afford to go there 3 times a year for me to be in that study. So I found 2 doctors right here in New York who were willing to take that risk, put their license on the line, and work with that study and get me that drug. And here's the thing.
Nice.
My fracture rate went from over 100 a year down to less than 1 a year in 3 years.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Then I started traveling the country on these roads and breaking bones like crazy. That documentary, there is one little scene where I don't have a broken bone. But I'm here for it. So we need to realize a few things as a society. Our systems intended to help are restraining us because it's modern age. It's 2026, not 1926. People can do remote work. We have the ability to provide better technology so that people can get out and around, maybe even retain their original job, or at least use their original skills. Children with disability are more likely to live. As we age, we're more likely to live with disability. We need to look at that as human capital, let alone with human compassion. But if we can stop someone who's built a business from losing that business with a little investment, we should. If we can take someone who would grow up to be, I hate to use this terminology, but financially a burden on society, right? Because of welfare, and turn them into a productive person with a better piece of equipment, that's a good investment.
Yeah.
That's GDP. And our systems, Medicaid, Medicare in particular, when you build a system for tasks, you have to be careful because the more tasks you ask it to do and the more people you ask it to do these tasks for, the simpler that system has to be. We end up wasting more money operating the system than actually approaching the problem. And that's where we are today. The bureaucracy costs more than the actual help.
Yeah.
The social workers that I have to see 16 times a year, the doctor's appointments that aren't about my health, but they're about paperwork for the state. That's a waste.
Yep.
It is disgusting. We can change this. We can change this now. A lot of people are upset about who's in office, and they were upset, last term about who's in office. They'll be upset the next term about who's in office. But right now, the healthcare cookie in this country is crumbling.
Yeah.
It is. It's
It-
going to failing more and more people to start failing everybody. Here's the thing: when the cookie crumbles, it's time to mix a new batch of dough. And I'm in touch with various entities with power to push better legislation or improvement to legislation. And outside of the Mobility Independence Foundation, that's what I do. When I was in Arizona last couple months ago, I showed the documentary to 3 people. One of those people got me on the radio. From being on the radio, someone at the Goldwater Institute called me. Do you know the Goldwater Institute?
I do.
Yeah, they're hot on the issue now.
Nice.
I am waiting for their approval to work with them and see what we can do to improve the equipment issue and the regulatory issue. And that'll be state by state. So I'm looking for volunteers in every state who are good with policy. Thomas at themif.org, THEMIF. The myth, we're miffed. Help. It's time. And I got to remind people that this is the part that I hate to do because it's going to bum you guys out, right? You too personally. Sooner or later, this is going to be a problem for you. If you're not lucky enough to die suddenly, you're going to be beholden to these systems. You're going to be beholden to these kind of equipment. And when you reach the elder years, it's even worse. It's so
Yeah.
much worse.
Yeah. Yeah. We just actually earlier tonight, I dropped off my, so my father just passed from a long battle with cancer. And,
My
I
condolences.
had to turn, what's that, I'm sorry?
My condolences.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. But the Hebron Lions Club they had loaned us a wheelchair and he only used it like twice because man, he didn't want to fuck with that shit. He was like, "No, no. I'll just sit at home. Just go." Like he didn't exactly what you said though. He the last couple months of his life he probably could have gotten out and about more, if it was a little more dignified, if he had better options.
Or if it was more common to see, if he had already seen so many people out and about, right?
Yes,
But it's
yes.
so different. There's a term,
Yeah.
it's actually called wheelchair shame.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. Oh, he had wheelchair shame, without a doubt. He did not want to be in that. He did not want to be seen out and about like that. But yeah, so I actually dropped a wheelchair off there tonight before we did this. And yeah, so trust me, it's fresh on my mind that, my grandpa passed from Alzheimer's only 3 years before my father. Actually only about 3 years ago. And so we know I know that those are both options for me. Those are both things that it's if not one then not the other, then like you said it'd be a massive coronary, I guess.
Or something
Like, I
else.
don't know.
I mean,
Like those are your options.
the worst thing is if you end up in a care facility and get sepsis, that's a slow, horrible death.
Yeah.
Sepsis from pressure
Yeah.
sores because they fail to keep you clean and dry.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
this leads me to a thing here.
Yeah.
Since I started running for office in 2020, I've been telling people the thing to do is the thing that's in front of you, the thing that you know you can do. Do the thing you can do, right? So when you see a problem like this, I appreciate podcasts, and I don't mean to like rail on you, but
No,
you got to do more than talk about it. You got to do
yeah,
something about it. And in this case, we're 3.5 years old. We're raising good money, but not enough. We have a hellacious opportunity right now. The iron is hot. We need funding. $5 a month, $5,000, 5 minutes, whatever you can do, help us change this. It's for everyone. And when I say everyone, I don't even just mean the US. This is the
yeah,
interesting thing that has happened. As we've been messaging and growing, we get called from or emailed and contacted by people in third world countries. They have the same amount of access problems, just for different reasons. And our open hardware model can fix all of it.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's very cool. There's well, thank you so much for coming on. I know you don't have, forever as far as all night, as far as talking about this. I could sit on here and for another 3 hours talk about this stuff. I think it's very interesting. I love the whole concept. I love the concept from the open hardware section. I love the concept of finding ways to cut the government out of this pie, or at least lower the standards so that you don't have as many obstacles. I love the fact of, obviously it's near and dear to me because it's near and dear to my girlfriend. She has a big heart with all this. I absolutely love talking to her about this sort of stuff and talking about giving some people dignity, like not it, treating them like human beings. It's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is supposed to be what we're about, and and not to turn this into a big political thing, but we'd have a lot more. A couple earlier you were talking about some function that was underfunded, right? All the government programs are underfunded, and why are all the government programs underfunded? Well, because we spend so much money on stupid shit. Because we spend so
I can actually clarify
ignorant.
that. I can clarify that.
Yes,
And we call them unfunded mandates. So the federal government mandates the states do a thing like Medicaid. And then the
yeah,
states tend to mandate that the counties do that thing. And the counties can't manage a budget, the state can't manage a budget, and the federal government can't manage a budget. And so now they're all trying to do a thing without enough money.
yes, yes, and
Or
and,
they're
and just
or
becomes
they're
somebody
trying
else's
to do
problem.
nothing. They're trying to do nothing at all, but they've created they've created multiple layers that they could blame it on.
Yeah, but they're
Yes,
good at creating problems they can run for office and solving and not solve.
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, they can look at all that we did. We created this. We passed this unfunded mandate. We don't give a damn how it's worked, or the fact that it hasn't. And that's the issue with government, period. And again, and for all disclosure, anybody that's ever listened to this podcast knows we're talking about both Republicans and Democrats here. Like
Yeah.
this, it doesn't matter what side of what side of the coin you're talking about here. It's the same. It's the same problem. But I guess that's the thing that irks me so much is, and just knowing the nature of government, knowing the nature of bureaucracy, knowing the nature of all this shit, it just makes it that much harder when you see some of them talk about, oh well, it's only cost us, X billion number of dollars in the war in Iran, and you're going, what the fuck are you talking about, man? You're like that's it, just so many billion of dollars. What do we got to say? I am being stalked by giant tech.
Game stock.
Oh,
So, and it's true. Tech and health care now overlap dramatically in so many
yeah,
ways. And they are gang stalking us. The more we get it out of their hands, the better it'll be. The more we put it in private hands or charitable hands, the better it'll be. Maybe we
yeah,
can't do all of it, but what we can do, we should do. And I'm going to pitch one last thing. We're currently writing up the package because we're starting a ambassadors program where people can learn about us and talk about us. They can go to their own events. They can have their own little fundraisers to help us. And they can teach about open hardware and about what we're doing, why we're doing it. If you're interested, my email is thomas@themyth.org. I'll put you on the list for when that comes out.
yeah, for sure.
But we need the word out. We need the word out everywhere. Every time
Yeah.
we get in front of people, people love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Damas, we appreciate you coming on. We definitely want to have you on
Yeah.
again sometime soon. I'll plan on seeing you. Oh, Keith, you had something else you were saying?
No, I was saying, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I was agreeing with you.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Well, not next week, week after next. And yeah, we'll definitely connect. And do you have like a YouTube or anything for when we put this out to connect you to?
We do have a YouTube. Yeah. It's on the bottom of our website. You should be able to add us as a collaborator.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'll do it and email. It usually gives me a code and I'll just email it to you because yeah, that some stuff like that. That way, that just all that cross traffic.
I mean,
That's the more people see all of it, the better.
unfortunately, most of the YouTube channel is just me yelling at a cell phone.
That's perfect. That's what we want. That's all we're gonna do the next time. We're gonna do an hour and a half of you yelling at a cell phone. I'm down for that.
So I'm gonna put you guys on the spot.
Okay.
I see Keith Cunningham and Travis Gerhardt. You guys seem to care about this issue, right?
See,
You know the website, right?
we do.
I assume you have $5.
I have $5.
All right. I'm gonna expect to see your donations in my email by the end of tomorrow.
Sounds
And
good.
for the record, there is a platform in our donor page where you can actually donate your old car. They'll come pick
Okay.
they'll come pick it up. They'll take care of it, sell it, and cut us a check. But there is a platform that takes crypto, and then there's a couple of other zero cost, meaning it doesn't cost us anything and it doesn't cost you anything unless you choose to donate. No processing fees. To donate to the Roz Rover, which is the children's mobility device project. You can get a children's book about solving your own problems when you donate to that one. And then we have one for the endurance, and that's more of a general because it's a flagship product. But I want you to remember, when it comes time for you to sit down in a piece of equipment, do you want to sit down to die, or do you want to sit down to thrive?
Yeah.
That's the literal question today.
Yeah.
I say thrive.
I think it's human nature. Why wouldn't you? Why would you want anything else? Why would you not want to thrive? That's and having a disability doesn't change what's in here and what's in here, right? You still want to thrive, and God, you know, if your children, something happens, my son gets in a car accident, paralyzed, waist down. Do I want him to just live the rest of his life and just wait to die? Fuck no.
It's
No.
important. It's important to give people hope. It's important to let people know that we can do that. One last thing, and I keep saying this, right? One last thing. We should all be looking at the technology that's available in the consumer market at our fingertips and treating it like Legos. Solve problems.
Yeah.
It's there. We have it. You can do it. Build teams.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm down. Well, you will see. You'll see some donation emails tomorrow. I'll get this. I'll get this put up by tomorrow as well, and I'll do the cross collaboration. And Thomas, thank you so much. We look forward to having you on again here sometime soon. Especially something big. We get some sort of update. You guys get that stuff going where you start having the where we're able to have the events. You get that process started. We're down. We're here to help. It's been great meeting you the past couple of libertarian conventions I've gone to. Looking forward to seeing you at the national one. And yeah, just keep kicking ass and taking names, brother.
Right on.
All right. Have a
Awesome.
go. Well, I almost messed up the outro. I'm sorry. Well, my name is Travis Gearhart. We're here with Thomas Quieter. We're here with Queeter. Sorry. I was messing with you.
Well, let me go through it. It's Thomas Daniel Queeter, never quitter, rarely quieter.
Never queefer. We are here with also Keith Cunningham, and we are
Disenfranchised.
I certainly was.